السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعين به ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله بلغ الرسالة وأدى الأمانة ونصح الأمة وكشف الغمة وجاهد في سبيل الله حق جهاده حتى أتاه اليقين ونحن على ذلك من الشاهدين. أما بعد، فإن أحسن الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وإن شر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة بالنار. أما بعد. Today, my dear respected brothers and sisters, we're going to be talking about a very important subject in which what is the relationship of science in Islam. And one of the most common arguments that the atheists try to use all the time, they say, we believe in science, in which if science say it's true, then it's true. And if science says disprove anything, then we don't believe in that. So the question is that we need to kind of answer today is, what is the relationship with science? Islamically, how do we view science? And is science all the time is true? Okay? To start out this topic, there is one important thing that we need to address is the fact that indeed science have changed our world, have given us so much improvements, have changed the way we live. Science have improved the life of human beings in many, many ways. In the same token, the question that we need to ask ourselves is this: is science the only true that we have, or the only way for us to know what is considered to be true? So the next question is, does science have limitation? Does science have limitation? And is science 100% certain all the time? So when I say something that is scientifically being proven, does that mean that it's khalas, it's 100% true, there is no doubt whatsoever? So this is the kind of questions we need, because this is the way atheists try to look at this whole world. They look at, well, if it's not scientifically being proven, then it's wrong, okay? So to start out with our topic, the very first thing that we need to address is, what is science? What is science? Because a lot of people, even among us Muslims, we believe in science. We think, if science say it's true, even sometimes if the science say something that is 100% opposite of the sunnah of the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we say, well, it's science. It must be true all the time. And even it affects us. So the question is, what is science? We have to ask ourselves, what is science? Science, my dear brothers and sisters, is our attempt to understand this world. It's based on observation. It's based on reasoning. And so what happens is, when we are trying to see develop a scientific theory, what do? The very first thing we do, we have a hypothesis. We have nadariya, ilmiya. And then after that, we test this hypothesis with testing. For instance, let's say I say, all doors are black, or all doors are black. So what I would do to make sure that I am right, I look at 1,000 door, okay, and I see what's their color, and I test my hypothesis to say if it's right or wrong. So science is based on what? Science is based on things that we see. This is extremely important. Science is based on things that we see, things that we touch, things that we test. So if it's something that we cannot test, if it's something that we cannot see, if it's something that we cannot hold in our hands or observe directly, then it cannot be science. And based on that, once we have all of this, then we have a sample. Like for instance, if I wanted to see, like the example that I said, I claimed that all doors are black. So I see the very first 1,000 door, okay? What's my sample size? 1,000 doors. Does that mean I have looked at all of the doors of the world? No, I have seen only 1,000 doors. And based on that, I said, all doors are black. Maybe the very first 1,000 door that I've seen is black and the rest of them is white. You understand? So the thing is, based on what I've seen, what I've tested, what I've held in my hand, I make a hypothesis, and I make based on that as a generalization. So assumption number one, is science the only way for us to see what is true? Okay? So let's talk about this and look at some of the limitation of science, because this is extremely important. When someone say that I only see, science for me is the only way for me to know what is true, that is called scientism. It is called scientism, which means that the only way for me to know if something is true is based on science. If science said it's wrong, then I say it's wrong. So to a certain extent, yes, we believe certain things can be proven and disproven by science. But in the same token, is science the only way for us to test everything? Does science have limitations? It has several limitations, okay? And we're going to be talking about several things. So the very first thing, that it has 7 limitations. Science is based on something that is observed. Science cannot tell us more about morality. Science cannot tell us about personal feelings. Science can only tell us the why, not the how. Science can only tell us, cannot tell us metaphysical issues, things that are ghaibiyat. Science cannot tell us things that are absolute truth, and science cannot tell us there's other sources of knowledge. And we're going to be talking in details to each one of this. Now, the very first thing. The very first limitation of science is the fact that science is limited to observation. For instance, like the very first example that I said all doors are black. I tested this based on the doors that I've seen, that I've held in my hand. So does that mean all the doors in the world are black? Of course not. Maybe my hypothesis, my nazariya al-ilmiya that I have came up with, my hypothesis is true. But is it true all the time? Is it true in other places? No. So this is something that is extremely, science each and every time, like for instance, in all fields, whether it was psychology, whether it was mathematics, whether it was engineering, whether it was medicine, science come up with hypotheses based on things that we see nowadays. Maybe 100 years from now, all these things can change. And we could have something that is completely different 100 years from now. Why? Because we see, based on, we observe, we make scientific discoveries based on what we see. So that's number one. Science is limited to observation. Second thing is, this is something that science, atheists around the world cannot even answer. Can science answer morality? Can science tell me what is the khuluq al-hasan? Can science tell me what is right and wrong? Can we say, like for instance, if I want to say, for instance, is it scientifically good to kill someone or kill an innocent baby? Can science tell me that? Of course not. Science can tell me, for instance, science can tell me, how things are being done, but not the why. So this is something that is, can science tell me if something that is ethically good or ethically bad? Of course it's not. One of the common questions that atheists are being asked about is the issue of incest. Do you guys know what that is? Like, for instance, is it wrong for the father to marry his daughter? Now, if you ask anyone, they will tell you it's wrong. But because how do we know it's wrong? How do we know it's wrong? Because it's something inside of us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created this inside of each and every human being, no matter what religion you're from, no matter what you believe, and even if you are an atheist. Even if you are an atheist, you believe a father marrying his daughter is wrong. A brother marrying his sister is wrong. But what happened is, why is it wrong? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have created that inside of you. And science cannot tell me that marrying my daughter is wrong or a brother marrying his sister is wrong. So morality is not something that it could change based on people's opinion. No, it wouldn't. Morality is something that is common among all humanity. is coming among all humanity, like we talked about this in the past, that it is good to help the poor. It is good to help an old man. It is good to feed the hungry. It is good to be nice. It is good to smile in the faces of the people. These things. So science cannot tell me, I cannot test and say, based on science, it is good to smile. It's not, it's pathetic. And no one can prove or disprove that. The third thing is, can science tell me or test what's my intention? Can science tell me what is my feeling? Can science tell me if someone should be trustworthy or not? Can science tell me your emotions? It can't. So some of them would say, well, you could do a lie detecting test. Well, the lie detecting tests have its own failures too. The lie detecting test, sometimes it doesn't even detect things that's supposed to be detecting. Can science tell me if someone is depressed? Maybe someone, he smile from one ear to another. But science cannot tell me if somebody inside is depressed or not. How do we know if someone is depressed? We ask him questions, and then he would tell me that he's depressed. But science sometimes cannot tell us certain things, especially feelings, intentions, emotions, etc. Another important thing is, science can never tell us the why. It could tell me the how. Let me give you an example. Let's say, for instance, a brother gave you a present. He gave you a pie, okay? You know, scientifically speaking, you could look at the pie. What is the pie is made out of? The ingredients of the pie. How to make the pie. Science can answer these questions, right? But can science tell me why the brother gave you that present? No. Science can tell us how the mountain came about. A mountain came about. Science could tell me how the rain, it's raining. Science can tell me many hows, but can science tell me why the mountain is there? Can science tell me why is it raining? It can't, because there is, science can only, like for instance, someone did a crime, okay, and he killed an innocent baby. Okay, science can tell me, for instance, how much blood was lost. Science can tell me, how sharp the knife was. But science can tell me what is the intention or why this evil person have done this crime, why this person have terrorized a town, or etc. It can't. Science cannot tell us. Can tell us only the how, but cannot tell us the why. And that's why, my dear respected brothers, is the fact that when we have a religion, and when we believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it gives us a sense of comfort. Because we know why we're doing things. Why it's raining. Why there is a mountain. Why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is testing people with different things. So because when you don't know the why, you are almost living a life of emptiness, a life of lost. You don't know why things are happening, why evil is there, why good is there, why we are living in this world, and etc. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the beginning of the Quran, Alif Lam Mim, ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه هدى للمتقين الذين يؤمنون بالغيب. One of the most essential aspects of the Muslim belief is that we believe in things that are ghaibiyat, or in English, metaphysical things. Metaphysical things. Can science answer things that are metaphysical? For instance, science can tell me what's going to happen in the afterlife? No. Can science tell me, for instance, how this universe started? Because no one was there to see how the universe started. So this is something that is ghaibi, metaphysical. Can science tell us how we have souls? وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنُ الرُّوحِ قُلُ الرُّوحُ مِنْ أَمْرِ رَبِّي وَمَا أُوتِيتُم مِنَ الْعِلْمِ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. Can they answer us about the soul and how is the soul and what is the relationship between the soul and the body? No, even science, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, the creator of the world, He said, no matter how much you try, you will never be able to know what is the soul and where the soul came from? Can science tell us how do we have reasoning? How do we have consciousness? Or how do we have deductive reasoning? Science cannot tell us that, and etc. So these things are metaphysical things, ghaibiyat, that the science cannot answer whatsoever. A basic thing that maybe a 5-year-old would know, okay? There are certain things in this world that we call absolute truth. Yani no one can challenge that. Let me give you an example. 1 + 1 is equal to 2. Can science prove that? Science can 1 + 1 is 2. Can we test that? No, it's true. It's no matter how you flip it, 3 + 3 is 6. No matter how you change it, there is no way to test that. Certain things in this world are absolutely true, and you cannot test. Do you see what I'm saying? They call them, absolute truth that exists in this world. One planet plus 1 planet equal to 2 planets. So certain things in this world, what we call absolute truth, no one can test. And science needs math, for instance, for it to work. Science needs absolute truth for it to work. So the mathematics, the field of mathematics, some things in the field of mathematics are considered to be absolute truth that we cannot test whatsoever. There is another common, this is something that is easy to refute. People say science, it is the only way for us to know about knowledge. Is this true? Science is the only way for us to have ilm or knowledge. Is it true? No. Like for instance, let me give you other ways that we have knowledge. For instance, history. How, history, is it based on science? No. But is it true? It's true. Like for instance, when someone tells us about the history of America, when was it established? The very first president of the United States, the Civil War, World War I, World War II, what happened during the Depression. Is this something that these things are absolute truth that we know it existed. But science can test or disprove that? It can't. For instance, your life, when you was born, who's your grandparents? Maybe you have a family tree. Can I scientifically say that I could prove that and disprove that? No. So because people have told you, based on testimonies, that your grandfather, his name was X and Y, right? And they lived in this place, this is their life, this is what they ate, and etc. It's based on truth, but this is not something that we necessarily test. So there are many things, my dear respected brothers, that are considered to be true, but not necessarily scientifically being proven. The second common misconception that the atheist would say, science, it works, so it must be true. Science, it works, so it must be true. The question that we need to ask ourselves, throughout all the life of science, everything that used to be true everything that works, it was true? No. For instance, 200 or 300 years ago, people used to believe that the earth was flat. Did it work? Technically speaking, at that time, did it work for them? It worked. But is it true? It was not true. So what happened is, as we discover things, maybe the old theories were wrong, and now they're right. And maybe 100 years from now, maybe our theories now are true, but not necessarily. It works, but not necessarily true. Like for instance, in the field of chemistry or the field of medicine, we used to know so many things that we thought they were true. It worked, but later on, it was not true. It's just simple as that. Because as we discover more things, we figure out what is considered to be true or not. The last thing, I'm not going to, inshallah, take too long, and this is going to be the last point. Science, it is, people, the atheists claim that science is 100% certain. Meaning like, if I said this is scientific, meaning I am 100% sure it is a fact. Okay? This goes back to the very first point that I've made. So, again, the scientific, anything that we say is scientific is based on current discoveries that we have, right? When we say, for instance, when anything that we test is based on things that are observable, that we see. Again, let me give you another example. If I said all dogs are nice, all dogs are nice, and the very first 100 dogs that I've seen, they're nice. So I've made, and I say this is true, this 100% certain, the very first 100 dogs that I've seen, they're nice. But what happened later on, I go to another country, I go to back home, and I see the dogs back then, and all the dogs bite people. They're not nice. So the thing is, it's not, science is based on things that we see, things that are available. Again, science will change time from time, and theories develop and will change from one century to another. Last thing, my dear respected brothers and sisters, in this, it's very, if there is anything that we have gained from today's topic is this. Science indeed have done us so much good. There is many things that science have affected our lives and made our lives a lot better. But in the same token, we have to put science in its place. It means that certain things that science cannot answer, and certain things that science is limited and cannot give us a concrete answer. For example, science cannot tell us what is morally right or wrong. Science cannot tell us about metaphysical things, al-ghaybiyat. Science cannot tell us about our feelings. Science can only be dealt with things that are observable. You see? So, based on this, when someone tell you, because I cannot see God, and it's not been scientifically been proven to see God, tell them science is based on things that you could see. And if you can't see God, you can't test whether God exists or not. So if you walk in the desert, and you see footsteps of an animal, you're 100% sure that an animal have walked in this desert. But in the same token, when we see how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created all of this world, and all the fine-tuning that exists, and how everything is perfected, and we say this came by accident, ta'ala Allahu a'lam amma yasifun. If I said anything that is good, is indeed from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Prophet. If I said anything that is inappropriate, from myself and the shaitan, جزاكم الله خير لحسن استماعكم سبحانك وحمدك نستغفرك ونتوب إليك والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. جزاكم الله خير. Is there any questions that people have?